Hello, 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 and welcome to a new episode of Jenny 2024 podcast. I am sure you like it. All the other podcasts that we have done so far, and you are doing a lot of sharing, liking on YouTube and on Spotify. But today, today. Today, we're going to start a new one because you might want to start a job in finance. What about that? And here I am with Janet Johnston, which is the Chief Administrative Officer at BNY Mellon, which is a great partner of Jenny 2024 and a great partner of JA Europe, being you, Janet, also on the board of JA Europe. Hello, Janet.
Hello, Salvatore, and thank you for inviting me. What a privilege to be here with you today.
We have thousands of young people who are already projecting themselves in the future. I want to make sure they take the they make the right choices about their path. So tell me today, in 2024, right, is banking and finance only for an exclusive number of people career in that, or like in the movies we saw all those Hollywood movies, all those people going to Wall Street or looking at the
Yeah.
big banks out there, or everybody can have a good career in that?
What a great question to start with. Thank you, Salvatore. Look, the idea that banking and finance is for this unique, selected, handpicked group of people really is a stereotype of the movies, as you say, and it could not be further from the truth. The reality is that finance and banking is a hotbed of change and innovation. And in fact, we need as much diversity of experience, of background, of skill set, of education as we can get. Why? Because then we make better decisions about the future, as you said, better decisions about the future, and we are able to serve our customers better and create roles and jobs for people that are really super interesting. And in fact, I'll turn that question around and say, Salvatore, that finance thrives on talent, dedication, hard work. And it doesn't matter where you're from or what your background is. In fact, we want more of that difference. At its very core, banking and finance is about analytical skills, problem solving, critical thinking, the ability to adapt and to change and to be innovative and to work with other people. And so, honestly, that point around, it's just for a handpicked group of people, it couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, you touched upon the great things. There are, plenty of talent that would like to join the banking, the finance sector. But also, if I'm not good at math, right? So there
Mm.
is also this other stereotype. You only need to know numbers. I mean, first of all, we know that STEM is so important. We know that mathematics is so important. But there are some people that say, I'm not really good at it, doesn't know my skills. Can I still work and have a career in the banking and finance sector?
Oh, yes, please. I'm going to call that one the math myth, if I can call it something. It is an absolute myth that you need to be really good at mathematics. Look, yes, there are some roles in banks like trading, like some forms of risk assessment, like some financial analysis that do require a level of proficiency in mathematics. Absolutely. But there are so many roles in banks that don't require that skill set. In fact, they require skill sets like really good communication, really good organizational skills, really good at interpersonal skills, working with other people, working in a team, and the whole being greater than the sum of the parts. And some of those skills play out in our human resources world, they play out in our compliance, risk and compliance groups, they play out in customer service and relationship management. And none of those things that I just mentioned require a proficiency in mathematics.
different kind of skills, different type of talents. This is the beauty of it, and this is how it becomes also a sector that looks at diversity, looks at inclusion, make sure that everybody has that opportunity there, where talents meet those opportunities. Now, talking about meeting, I imagine that I'm a young person and I'm coming for an interview there at BNY Mellon, right? What your colleagues from HR are really looking into it when I present myself on their meetings?
Mm, good question. So, look, a lot of it depends on the job itself, but generally, I'm going to speak in general terms. I'm going to say there are three things that are really super important, Salvatore. Number one, some form of technical skill, and I'll come back to what I mean by technical skill. There's some form of, there's a group of personal attributes that I'll come back to and explain some more on. But probably the most important attribute, Salvatore, would be the ability and the interest to learn and to develop and to evolve and to align your own personal aspirations and your values with that of the company. So let me come back to some of those points, right? So technical
This
skills.
is so important. Yeah, let's go back to the first one first. You talk
Yeah.
much about technical skills. What
Yeah.
kind of?
So technical skills, what I would say, I think it's important to understand if you're really interested in coming to the industry, to understand what it is that a bank does, right? Why are banks an important part of the ecosystem in any economy, right? And at the highest level, just to share that with you, right? It's all about the banks playing a role in the facilitation of moving capital from those that have the capital or the money, right, to those that don't have the capital or the money, so that they can make a viable contribution to the rest of to the economy, right? That's what banks do. They take deposits and they lend money. They do other stuff as well, but that's right at the core. So that I would call that a technical skill. So understand what it is that banks actually do. But more than that, I'm going to say there's some personal attributes that are really important to work in a bank and probably to work in many organizations in any event in more general terms, right? I would say communication, we touched on already, Salvatore. Teamwork, right? This is not an individual sport. This is a team sport. Problem solving every day, in every way. We have problems. We have things we need to tackle, right? It doesn't stay static. This is a very dynamic world. So being able to see problems, run towards the fire, solve the problems, adapt and make changes in the moment is really important. And a customer orientation, a client orientation is super important because, by the way, what we do and why we're here is to serve our clients and to enable them to reach their own strategic aspirations as well. I would amplify one other personal attribute as well, and that is that working in a bank or in financial services, you are entrusted with the fiduciary responsibility, that's an important word, the fiduciary responsibility of managing other people's money, right? And that is money that other people have worked really, really hard for. They are saving for their first home, for their children's education, for that lovely holiday that we all
Your
wanted to take,
dreams.
their dreams, right? And so protecting and looking after that money and those savings with a very high level of integrity and doing what's right, even when it may not always be easy to do that, doing what's right always is very important. And I call that integrity. So, so just to summarize that, what are we looking for as the sort of personal attributes would be that's communication skills, team working skills, um, um, the ability to be trustworthy, and I use that word broken, right? Be trustworthy is very important in this industry. And then the final point that I made, Salvatore, was the hunger, the curiosity to continue to be better in one's person, to learn, to take the opportunities, to learn from other people, not to be too proud, right? To be quite humble. That requires us to recognize that we don't always have the answers to everything, and we need to stretch ourselves and learn something. The ability and the willingness to learn and to grow and to evolve is really important.
The ability to learn on how to learn, right? So also it's
Learn
an
how to learn.
evolution. It never stops. Ability to learn on how to learn. I'm sure that through this podcast, over, we reach out over 6 million young people every year in so many countries, over 40 European countries. So those are not watching our podcast, they also are learning about the future. First award of BNY Mellon that this year is going to be presented to some of our youth that will come to our final of Jet E 2024, which is just
Exciting.
around the corner in Sicily in July 2nd to 4th. But let's go back, Janet, on this journey in the banking
Mm,
sector, the finance sector. So I put myself in one of those 6 million young people. Some of them might be 12 years old, 16 years old, right?
mm,
And when I was 16 years old, I mean, the bank obviously was this place in my rural village where my father was putting the money of his paycheck, right?
yeah,
He was
yeah.
putting the money there, and sometimes we were going there. He was writing a check, right? That was
Mhm.
was incredible to see it. Uh, but the bank is not only that institution. There are different kind of banks to work on. So BNY Mellon is maybe different from other kind of banks, right?
Mm.
So what kind of the different type of bank that you can see that people also can look at?
Yeah. Yeah, so good question. So I think of banking and financial services almost as like a sport, right? If you think about the sports analogy, right? So I may have a skill, Salvatore, that makes me better at playing tennis, but you have a skill that makes you better at playing football, right? It's all sports. We all love sports, right? But there are differences in the skill sets that's required, and there are differences in what you're passionate about and what I'm passionate about. And it's the same in banking in a way, right? So there are different types of banks that do different things in the financial services ecosystem. Just to give you some examples there to make that real, right? So a retail bank is the terminology we would use, would be the banks that you see on the high street. Right, you see Lloyd's Bank here in the UK. You would see Banco Santander. You would see Deutsche Bank, you would see BNP Paribas, right? These are retail banks. Not many of them, not only retail banks, but they have retail banking businesses. So that is all about, as you described, right? Individuals depositing money that they've earning into savings and checking accounts, and off the back of that, availing of credit card facilities and a mortgage maybe for your first home, etc., etc. So that's retail bank, right? And that takes a certain type of person. There's quite a of interaction with individuals. So if you've got strong interpersonal skills, you may feel um, a pull into that type of organization where you're going to work with people to make their lives better and to look after that hard earned money. Other banks like we would call commercial banks, so quite similar to retail banks, except their clients are not individuals. The clients are businesses. They're small businesses, and their needs are similar, but also slightly different. So they may need to to raise some money to invest into a big project, to employ some more people, so they can expand their operations. They may need foreign exchange services to move money from one country to the next. They may need trade finance facilities to import some goods from a foreign country and to then distribute them in the local market, right? So that's commercial banking, really interesting, right? It's really in the nuts and bolts of what makes an economy work. Very exciting business. And then maybe at kind of the other end of that spectrum, you would have what we call investment banking, and people would know that term, and maybe that's the term that you would remember from some of the movies, right? Where big deals get made, right? This is where mergers and acquisitions happen. This is where we do underwriting of securities offerings. This is where we trade securities, the big dealing rooms that you see in the movies. That's investment banking. So probably as a generalization, a bit more mathematical and technical proficiency required as a starting point for that type of banking. But again, very exciting, quite pressurized, quite time urgent, right? It's quite a fast moving environment, extremely exciting. And those people that love that just love it. Our bank is a bank which we call a custodial bank or a trust bank. And the role that we play in the financial services sector is to safekeep and to manage the financial assets of banks like retail banks, commercial banks, and investment banks, but also of pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, insurance companies, and investment management companies. So we're quite different and unique to some of the other banks that we describe. Of course, I have a bias in favor of the bank that we are. It really is the connective tissue, if you like, between the different types of financial institutions in the financial services industry. And what appeals to individuals will be very different. Just as my sporting analogy, you love playing football, I love playing tennis, right? My skills are a bit different. Maybe you're a bit more of a team player than what I might do. I might prefer playing singles matches in tennis because that's who I am, and that's okay. But there's place for all of us.
This place for all of us, and go back. It all starts as what you said. There are some people earning the money, and they move it around. They deposit, and it becomes bigger and bigger, and move it from one side. It requires a lot of trust. Now, I have something for you, Janet.
Yes.
This is a bit of a reflection that I made this past Christmas. So my daughter's 5 years old. She say we were back in November, and she say, "Oh, we should write the letter to Santa Claus, right?" She, okay, Dad, can you help me? Because she didn't know how to write yet, right? She's learning at the moment. So of course. So tell me, what do you want me to write to Santa Claus? And she say, "Dear Santa Claus, I want a smartwatch." I couldn't understand. She doesn't even know how to read the time. She wanted a smartwatch. I said, "Why do you want a smartwatch?" And she said, "Because I can buy whatever I want." So imagine in her mind, she's seeing me going to the supermarket and paying with my smartwatch, going to the toy store and buying with a smartwatch. So she's not only seeing the money, she's seeing that this little piece of technology has a huge superpower. She can buy
Right.
whatever she wants. So we're exposing the next generation, obviously, on the needs of understanding how technology, digital, right, are
Yeah.
helping those financial transactions since they are little. So, how do you think this is important financial literacy, even more now with the kids that are not necessarily exposed and putting their coin in their saving, right? How can we make sure that one?
Yeah, so that's a lovely story, actually, and leading into a great question. So, Salvatore, when you and I were younger, we would have had, as you said, the little piggy bank. In my culture, we took up a piggy bank, you put the coins in, right, and it gets heavier and heavier, and eventually you have to ask your father to prise it open with a screwdriver at the bottom and take the money out, right, and then you can count it, and then you can see how much you've got, and you can go into the shop and you can see how much something costs, and you can reconcile the two, right? It's more difficult today, I'm going to say, with digital, right? Because to your point, the smartwatch, right? You're just going to hold it against a pay point and it's going to pay for everything that I want. Well, that's not really the reality, right? Because there are not endless amounts of financial resources, and we've got to plan our future. We have to manage our spending in line with what we have. We have to save. We have to earn interest, right? So I think some of the visible ability to learn about what banks do now is a little bit hidden from view, but it doesn't mean that we can't all learn what that means. So how can we learn about what a bank does, right, and learn about financials? Well, I think there's a lot of different ways. Number one, there's professional study, right? You can study banking and commerce, right? Secondly, you can self-study. There's so much. This hopefully this podcast is good enough to be on YouTube, and people will be listening to this and thinking that's really inspiring. I want to go and learn. I can self-study, right? There's so many different websites and articles and videos and tutorials that provide this up-to-date information all aspects of banking, all types of banking that we've spoken about. They're fantastic books that have been written. And actually, I catch the train every night out of the Waterloo station. And in the window last night, I saw there was Investment Banking for Dummies, the For Dummies series, right? Pick it up. I picked it up. I had some time I missed my train. I picked it up and took a look. It's really good. It's really good, right? The way it explains financial concepts, very good. There's another book that I read when I was younger called Money and Banking, What Everybody Should Know, right? So there's loads
In
of
banking, what
resources.
everybody should know. Let's make it
Money and
to
Banking, what
our
everybody should.
audience there. Make a note of all of it.
Yeah, Google it on Amazon. I don't know, I can advertise that. Google it on Amazon. It's right there. It's a brilliant book. And then, I'm going to go into some other areas of professional development. Companies like ours are always looking for early career talent, right? We have summer internship programs. We want to attract more and more, hundreds and hundreds of young people into our company to learn about what banks do and what the financial system does to in the furtherance of the advancement of communities. We want to attract them. We want young people to go onto our website and look at those opportunities and make their application and be passionate about coming into the industry. And then finally, I would say I think probably everybody knows somebody that works in a bank, be that a relative, a friend, somebody that works in a bank. Reach out and speak to them. I'm sure they would love to speak to you about what it means to work in a bank, right? And the stories that you will hear from them will be different, right? Depending on if they're a retail bank, a commercial bank, an investment bank, a trust bank, and what role they play in those organizations will be different. But listen to them, hear them, ask them if you can, if you could spend a bit of time with them as an informal mentor, and really help you to understand that industry. So loads of different ways for your daughter Salvatore to learn about how we get the money onto the watch that we can pay for.
And I really hope she will consider a career in
I
the
hope so
banking and
too.
finance sector. I'm very
I hope so
happy
too.
to see that. Well, we're at the end of our podcast, so there are a lot of questions might come up from this podcast. So please write it down in the comments on our YouTube channel, on our Spotify. Did you like it? If you like it, put a like and obviously share and reshare, and also maybe not tag someone who's working in the bank. Let's see what there's their reaction out there. Thank you so much, Janet Johnstone, Chief Administrative Officer of BNY Mellon, great partner of JA, great partner of Jenny 2024. Thank you, Janet.
Thank you, Salvatore. My absolute pleasure. Thank you.